तो हेलो स्टूडेंट्स, आज हम एक नया सीरीज स्टार्ट करने वाले हैं ISC क्लास 12 of history syllabus, and welcome to my channel. My name is Neil Ghosh, and so here the topics we are going to cover, and we are going to do the first chapter of history, that is the towards independence and partition, the last phase from 1935 to 1947. So here we are going to cover this chapter with 5 parts of the video will be series of 5 parts for chapter 1.1 to 1.5. So in today's video we are going to cover the first part, that is 1.1. तो चलिए शुरू करते हैं। तो पहले पार्ट में जो कहा गया है वो है ग्रोथ ऑफ सोशलिस्ट आइडियाज़। जैसे कि आप देख सकते हैं कि ये 4 टॉपिक आज हम कवर करने वाले हैं 1.1 से। ग्रोथ ऑफ सोशलिस्ट आइडियाज़, ट्रेड यूनियन एक्टिविटीज़, किसान सभा मूवमेंट एंड ग्रोथ ऑफ कम्युनलिज्म. So, what is the growth of socialist ideas? How have the growth of socialist ideas have been developed? So let's begin. तो जैसे कि हम देख पा रहे हैं, पहले है what is the role of M. N. Roy in the growth of socialist ideas. We will learn the growth of role of M. N. Roy, the role of Jawaharlal Nehru, and the role of Subhash Chandra Bose in the growth of socialist ideas. So let's begin. M. N. Roy was popularly known as Narendranath Bhattacharya, as we all know. He was born on 21st March 1887 at Arbelia in North Chobbish Pargona in West Bengal. He continued his studies at Harinavi Anglo-Sanskrit School as his family moved on, and his father taught him until 1905. He later joined a college, the National College under Aurobindo Ghosh, before moving to Bengal Institute of Technology, where he completed his engineering and chemistry. Towards the end of the 19th century, revolutionary nationalism spread almost to all areas. मतलब सब जगह revolutionary nationalism spread हो गया. And among the spread कहाँ हुआ ज़्यादातर? Among the educated middle class of Bengal, inspired by the writings of Bankim Chandra Chattopadhyay and Swami Vivekananda. Narendranath was very influenced with the writings of these two great personalities. उनको इन दोनों के जो राइटिंग्स थे वो बहुत इन्फ्लुएंस किया नरेंद्रनाथ भट्टाचार्य जी को, जिसको हम पॉपुलरली जानते हैं M. N. रॉय को. तो यहाँ पर जो मेन बात कहा गया है तो वो हम समझते हैं. A number of mass movements started for the cancellation of partition, and this gave him the chance to take part in the movement. He expelled from the school for participating in a march against the partition. He went to Calcutta and joined Anushilan Samiti to work as an active worker. He successfully committed the first act of political banditry. तो उन्होंने क्राइम किया था जिसके तहत उनको जेल हुआ, जिसके तहत उनको जेल हुआ, लेकिन उनको अल्टीमेटली बेल भी मिल गया. तो वो एक्टिव वर्कर की तरह मतलब अनुशीलन समिति में पार्टिसिपेट किया, जिसकी वजह से उन्होंने कुछ पॉलिटिकल क्राइम किया, कुछ पॉलिटिकल बाउंड्री को ब्रेक किया, जिसके लिए उनको जेल हुआ और फिर उनको बेल भी मिल गया जल्दी. Many nationalists, including M. N. Roy, become convinced that an armed struggle against British could only help India to get rid of the British Emperor. मतलब आर्म स्ट्रगल ज़रूरी है, और इसलिए उन्होंने जर्मनी से हेल्प लिया. इसलिए उन्होंने जर्मनी के बाद जापान से हेल्प लिया. सो ब्रिटिश को थ्रो करने के लिए इंडियन एम्परर से उन्होंने जर्मनी और जापान का, बाद में जापान का भी हेल्प लिया. तो देखते हैं जर्मनी से क्या हेल्प लिया. वो आर्म लिबरेशन का हेल्प लिया. जैसे कि द प्लान वॉज टू यूज़ द हेल्प फ्रॉम जर्मनी to storm and free Andaman Island and arm prisoners. There were land and army of liberalization on the Odisha coast. But the project of materialization against the British Emperor, Germany did not support the Indian national leaders. Then he met the nationalist leader of China, Sun Yat-sen, who took shelter in Japan. From there, he reached to assist him in his plan of organizing anti-British revolution in India. फिर ऐसे करते मतलब जब जापान से हेल्प लेने की उन्होंने कोशिश की, सन यात सेन से, मतलब जो चाइनीज़ थे जो जापान में शेल्टर लिए हुए थे. तो लाइक दिस M. N. Roy have developed a feeling, developed a passion and interest in Marxism, मार्क्सिस्ट पार्टी जो हम बोलते हैं. देन ही फ्लेड टू मेक्सिको, फिर वो मेक्सिको भी गए. देयर ही फाउंडेड द सोशलिस्ट पार्टी इन दिसंबर 1907. तो वहाँ से उनका ग्रोथ ऑफ मतलब जो उन्होंने हेल्प लिया आर्म स्ट्रगल की ब्रिटिश को इंडिया से बाहर कैसे हम निकाल सकते हैं, वहाँ से उनका सोशलिस्ट आइडियाज़ में ग्रोथ और इंटरेस्ट बढ़ने लगा बाय द प्रोसीडिंग ऑफ डेज. And converted into the Communist Party of Mexico. Later, it was then the Socialist Party which he founded. Then it was converted to Communist Party in 1919. At the request of to participate in the Second World Conference of the Communist, he was then invited to participate in the Second World Congress of the Communist International held in Moscow 1920. At the request of Lenin, he prepared his paper The East, specially India for Revolution. He formed the Communist Party of India outside the country at Tashkent in 1920. So in Tashkent, he formed the Communist Party of India in 1920. The Indian Communist Party was then formed in September 1924 at Kanpur. This conference is regarded as the formal beginning of the Communist Party of India in 1925. This was the formal beginning. Means इतने दिन तक तो वो अनफॉर्मल था, मतलब वो इतना ऑफिशियली नहीं था कि वो सोशलिस्ट पार्टी कर रहा है और उसको फिर कम्युनिस्ट पे कन्वर्ट किया. लेकिन फॉर द टाइम बीइंग ऑफ दिसंबर 1925 इट वाज बीन फॉर्मली द बिगिनिंग ऑफ द कम्युनिस्ट पार्टी ऑफ इंडिया. Then with this time, then he contracted with the revolutionary colleagues between the radicalism of Jugantar Party and Mohandas Karamchand Gandhi, means Gandhiji's novel program. In the meantime, M.N. Roy had a difference of opinion with Stalin. मतलब उनको स्टैलिन के ओपिनियन से वो एग्री नहीं करते थे. As a result, he was expelled from the Comintern Party in December 1929. सो इतना तक तो हमको समझ आए. तो हम नेक्स्ट पार्ट में चलते हैं. ही केम बैक टू इंडिया इन 1930 एंड मेट जवाहरलाल नेहरू एंड सुभाष चंद्र बोस. तो वो जब इंडिया लौटे तो वो किन लोगों से, किन नेशनलिस्ट लीडर से मुलाकात हुआ उनका? द नेशनल लीडर्स ऑफ जवाहरलाल नेहरू एंड सुभाष चंद्र बोस. ही वॉज सून अरेस्टेड अगेन एंड अगेन ही वॉज पुट इन टू द जेल फॉर द 5 years. Then Nehru invited him in Allahabad to improve his broken health, defying the Comintern order to boycott the Indian National Congress. In Comintern order, it was mentioned that to boycott the Indian National Congress, M.N. Roy urged the Indian communists to join the party to radicalize it from within. In 1937, Weekly Independent India appeared as welcomed by progressive leaders like Jawaharlal Nehru and Subhash Chandra Bose. Unlike गांधी जी का ओपिनियन जवाहरलाल नेहरू और सुभाष चंद्र बोस से अलग था. उनका ओपिनियन इतना मैच नहीं करता था, जिसकी वजह से एक डेविएशन हुआ पार्टी में, मतलब नेशनल कांग्रेस में एक डेविएशन हुआ उन लोगों के बीच में जिनका ओपिनियन मैच नहीं करता था. एंड soon he served his connection with Congress and created the Radical Democratic Party in 1940. He died in Dehradun on 25th January 1954. So what is the contribution of Jawaharlal Nehru in the growth of the socialist ideas? Among the in 1930 socialist ideas were felt within the and outside the country. जवाहरलाल नेहरू वॉज वेरी मच इम्प्रेस्ड एंड इन्फ्लुएंस बाय द सोशलिस्ट आइडियाज़. तो पहले से ही मतलब उनको जब पता चला सोशलिस्ट आइडियाज़ के बारे में तो वो पहले से ही बहुत इन्फ्लुएंस थे, बहुत इंटरेस्टेड थे सोशलिस्ट आइडियाज़ एंड ग्रोथ ऑफ सोशलिज्म पर. When he was there in Switzerland for the treatment of his wife Kamala Nehru, Nehru first came to know about the socialist ideas. He also learned there about the economic activities of the Soviet Union after the Bolshevik Revolution of December 1917. And in November 1927, he visited the Soviet Union, where he was greatly impressed by the economic and social reconstruction that was being made there. तो उनको बहुत प्रभावित किया जो सोवियत यूनियन का जो इकोनॉमिक और जो सोशल रिकॉन्स्ट्रक्शन हुआ, उनको बहुत इम्प्रेस किया. तो वो क्या चाहते थे कि when he came to know about the socialist ideas and he expected to make the full use of it in India, मतलब इंडिया में भी वो अपनाना चाहते हैं वो सब. He came back in December 1927 for all the practical purposes and turned into a socialist. He also began his ideas with the young factory workers and peasants. In the election of Jawaharlal Nehru as the president of National Congress in 1929, 1936 and 1937, Subhash Chandra Bose in 1938 clearly showed the left-wing tendency within the Congress fold. In Karachi session of March 1931, Jawaharlal Nehru unequivocally stated means leaving no doubt, मतलब कोई डाउट के बिना वो क्या क्या स्टेटमेंट दिया, इन ऑर्डर टू एंड एक्सप्लॉयटेशन ऑफ द मासेस पॉलिटिकल फ्रीडम मस्ट इंक्लूड रियल इकोनॉमिक फ्रीडम ऑफ द स्टार्वेशन ऑफ मिलियंस। मतलब इकोनॉमिक अगर मासेस का जो एक्सप्लॉयटेशन हो रहा था, जो हंगर में स्टार्वेशन में जो लोग मर रहे थे, अगर वो कम करना है तो पॉलिटिकल फ्रीडम में क्या रहना चाहिए, इकोनॉमिक फ्रीडम ऑफ स्टार्वेशन ऑफ मिलियंस। मतलब इकोनॉमिक मतलब फाइनेंशियली कंट्री को ग्रो करना चाहिए, तभी जाकर स्टार्वेशन और ये सब कम होगा मिलियंस ऑफ पीपल में से लोगों में। ही ऑल्सो डिमांडेड फॉर द इंक्रीज वेजेस ऑफ द सैलरीज ऑफ द वर्कर्स, स्पेशल टैक्सेस ऑन प्रॉपर्टी। तो ये सब वो इम्पोज करने के लिए वो अपना प्रेजेंटेशन दिए कि ये सब होना चाहिए, इम्पोज होना चाहिए, टैक्स होना चाहिए प्रॉपर्टी ओनरशिप में, प्राइवेट प्रॉपर्टी ओनरशिप में, वर्कर के सैलरी में इजाफा होना चाहिए, इंक्रीज होना चाहिए। And the fundamental rights and economic program were adopted in the Karachi session under the Jawaharlal Nehru's thesis. In the Lucknow and Faizpur session in December 1935, Jawaharlal Nehru elaborated his socialist ideas with great clarity. मतलब जो लखनऊ एंड फेसपुर सेशन था वहाँ पर ही उन्होंने अपना सोशलिस्ट आइडियाज़ बहुत क्लैरिटी के साथ एक्सप्रेस किया। Nehru have worked with three of the great personalities of that time, Jayaprakash Narayan, Narendra Dev and Achyut Patwardhana, and it was a landmark for the evolution of socialist ideas. So it was the landmark in the evolution of socialist ideas. He urged National Congress to accept socialism as its goal to bring itself closer to the peasant and working class. मतलब to come closer to the peasant and working class. He also condemned his proposal to Congress to adopt the socialism. Subhash Chandra, what is the contribution of Subhash Chandra Bose in the growth of socialist ideas? Subhash Chandra Bose from the early days has a socialist leaning. He was the founder president of the All Bengal Youth League, where he announced the program Complete Independence of India, Community of Interest with Labours and Peasants, Amelioration of Economic Condition of the Masses, Reduction of a Working Hour. तो ये सब उनका प्रपोजल था सुभाष चंद्र बोस का। मिनिमम स्केल ऑफ वेजेस, मेडिकल लीव विथ फुल पे, ओल्ड एज पेंशन, ये सब मिलना चाहिए, उनका ये प्रपोजल था। इन इज फ्री इंडिया सुभाष चंद्र बोस एम ऑफ क्रिएटिंग एन egalitarian society in which all members would enjoy almost equal economic benefits and social status, जहाँ पर सबको equal opportunity मिलना चाहिए, equal benefits मिलना चाहिए and equal social status मिलना चाहिए. There should be no restriction or no opposition or no caste system of in case of birth, percentage caste and greed, race, color, sex, etc. His proposal was that everyone should get equal opportunity and should be thrown to irrespective of caste, creed or religion. He said that free India will not be a land of the private landholders, capitalism. Free India will be a social and political democracy. A region of perfect equality, social, economic, political, shall prevail in free India. Under his leadership, a labour strike was held in Tata and Iron Steel Works at Jamshedpur in the honourable settlement in 1928. He became the president of All India Trade Union Congress in 1931, and it was the duty of the state to provide employment to the citizens, and where the state failed, it should accept the responsibility of maintaining them. मतलब state को जॉब क्रिएशन, मतलब जॉब देना चाहिए, एम्प्लॉयमेंट प्रोवाइड करना चाहिए सिटीजन को। जहाँ पर स्टेट फेल हुआ तो वो ये क्लियरली वो बता रहे थे कि स्टेट को यहाँ पर मेंटेन करना पड़ेगा वो रिस्पॉन्सिबिलिटी. देयर शुड बी नो मर्सी शोन अपॉन द वर्कर फ्रॉम द एम्प्लॉयर. एम्प्लॉयर शुड नॉट शो मर्सी और शुड नॉट डिमोलिश द वर्क ऑफ अ वर्कर. He also laid emphasis on the industrialization of India and planned economic growth of Soviet pattern. Both Jawaharlal Nehru and Subhash Chandra Bose has a socialist leaning, and the number of followers who had already been calling themselves leftist congressmen. Subhash Chandra Bose attempt to seek re-election of the Congress presidency sharply divided National Congress into leftist and rightist camp, but it now continued a powerful left wing with distinct leaning towards communist leadership. The younger section lost faith in non-violent program, which had made a very low progress and yielded over poor results. मतलब जो यंग जनरेशन है वो भी अपना फेथ लूज कर रहे थे कहाँ पर, कम्युनिस्ट लीडरशिप में. तो नॉन वायलेंट प्रोग्राम में और इसके लिए बहुत स्लो प्रोग्रेशन हो रहा था देश का और बहुत स्लो रिजल्ट्स आ रहे थे, पोर रिजल्ट्स. What are the Congress socialists? What about Congress socialists? Within the Congress, there were persons like Jayaprakash Narayan, Achyut Patwardhan, Acharya Narendra Dev, Ram Mohan Lohiya, Aruna Asaf Ali, and others who from the Congress Socialist Party. They joined hands on hands to carry out the national struggle with the help of workers and peasant class. These personalities whom I have mentioned earlier, the names, they were some of them are the founding fathers or the founding women of some of the great foundations, such as that Sitaramaya even called the founders of SCUM and Working Committee of the National Congress in 1934. Jawaharlal Nehru's attitude was rather hesitant. In between these, Jawaharlal Nehru's attitude was uncertain. We cannot predict that. He was intellectually inclined towards socialism, but he was not ready to join Socialist Party. His personal and political attachment to Gandhiji prevailed over the intellectual attachment towards socialism. His personality loyalty towards Gandhiji would be evident again and again through the 1930s. When Subhash Chandra Bose had been expelled from the Tripuri Rift, he formed a party. He formed a political party known as Forward Bloc in 1939 with his left-wing followers. And he wanted to keep Forward Bloc as a platform like the like-minded parties and to enlist supporters of communists and the socialists. Congress want to keep a unity with the National Congress. It was impossible, and Subhash Chandra Bose also realized that it was impossible to fight against Gandhi's wing as it was so strong and it was established very early, at the very early time. It had been so Sumit Sarkar, what I will say, in the opinion of Sumit Sarkar, he told that it would be a difficult choice to left behind Subhash Chandra Bose's previous record, what he had done earlier. He can fight with Gandhiji, but Gandhiji has a good backup background. But Subhash Chandra Bose is not at a lesser in comparison to Gandhiji. So the socialists did not want to separate themselves from within the National Congress because they felt that National Congress was the only party that could outrush the British from the country. क्या लगता था कि नेशनल कांग्रेस इज द ओनली पार्टी जो ब्रिटिश को बाहर निकल सकते हैं इंडिया से. They supported radicals in the National Congress and started organizing peasant movements out of the National Congress. Gradually, the socialist and the left wing and the military followers became an important political force within National Congress during 1930s and 40s. What were the two basic differences between Congress socialist and communist? ये आप नोट कर सकते हैं. The Congress socialist be in debt and their elegance, their faithfulness to the National Congress, and they were nationalists. The Congress socialists believed in class struggle and wanted to abolish private ownership of land, zamindari system, princely states, capitalism. ये सब वो abolish करना चाहते थे Congress socialist. और communist expressed their loyalty towards the Communist International. The communist also believed in goal of International Communist Society. उनका क्या गोल था कि International Communist Society बनना चाहिए. What about trade union activities? In the meantime, what about trade union activities? So हमने जो टॉपिक कवर कर लिए हैं वो थोड़ा टिक कर देते हैं. What is the growth of socialist ideas? Now we'll lean forward to the trade union activities. So the main centers of that time, the trade union activities, what were they? Bombay and Calcutta was the main center of textile, jute and tea industry. Naturally, these two regions had maximum working class population. The working and living condition of these workers were miserable. मतलब सबसे ज़्यादा जूट, टेक्सटाइल एंड टी इंडस्ट्री वर सेपरेटेड बिटवीन द बॉम्बे एंड कैलकाटा, विच वॉज द मेन industrialized center of that time. The workers worked very hard for hours and hours of 15 and 16 hours a day with no leave rules, with no job security. In this situation, Shashibada Banerjee, a radical Brahmo, founded a working men's club, Bharat Shramjivi or Indian Worker in 1874. He did not form any trade union. In Bombay, N.M. Lokhande started weekly Dinabandhu in 1980. He founded Bombay Mill Hand Association in 1890, and you can easily read the following names and who had founded what. You can easily read from here. So moving to the next part, trade union movement was thus slowly taking shape in 1920. Industry strikes took place at Kanpur, Calcutta, Bombay, Madras, Jamshedpur and Ahmedabad. All India Trade Union Congress was formed in Bombay 1927, where Lala Rajput Rai presided over the first session, and who were the nationalist leader who were present in the session under the presidentship, under the presidingship of Lala Rajput Rai. They were the Motilal Nehru, C.F. Andrews, B.P. Wadia, Annie Besant, N.M. Joshi, etc. They assumed that the growth of trade union was very slow because of the fear of dismissal kept on them. मतलब डिसमिस हो जाएगा इसका डर उनको रहता था, इसलिए बहुत कम मतलब बहुत स्लो है ग्रोथ ऑफ ट्रेड यूनियन. And the economic depression of 1929 to 1930 had its effect on our country. मीन्स बहुत लोगों का जॉब चला गया, बहुत बहुत फैक्ट्री बंद हो गया. In the meantime, many ups and downs were there in the trade union movement, and the split took place in AITUC, means All India Trade Union Congress. Indian Trade Union Federation in 1931, Communists also left the AITUC and formed the Red Trade Union Congress. Attempts were also made by the leftists and the socialists to unite the worker and peasant organization for collective movements. So what about Kisan Sabha movement? So we have read about the trade union activities and its growth and who have been the members of it, and who were means the member of All India Trade Union Congress. We have already read about it, and moving to the next part in Kisan Sabha movement. So in the Kisan Sabha movement, what has been told? The excessive burden of taxation, fear of eviction, no occupancy right on land, rise in prices of essential commodities, torture of landlords, and passive attitude of the authority compelled the peasants to revolt against the authority. Thus, a number of peasant revolt took place in various parts of India during 1920s and 1930s. मतलब यहाँ पर जो बताया गया एक्सेसिव बर्डन ऑफ टैक्सेशन, फेयर ऑफ इविक्शन, नो ऑक्यूपेंसी राइट ऑन लैंड, मतलब सब कुछ तो एबोलिश कर दिया गया किसान सभा के लिए. किसान सभा का ये मांग था कि सब कुछ ये एबोलिश होना चाहिए. राइजेस ऑफ प्राइस ऑफ एसेंशियल कमोडिटीज़, मतलब जो बेसिक नेसेसिटीज़ है उनका भी प्राइस बहुत बढ़ गया था. ये सब कम करने के लिए, ये सब लिमिट में लाने के लिए ये उनका मांग था किसान सभा का, इसलिए वो मूवमेंट स्टार्ट किया. The non-corporation movement of 1920 also encouraged the peasants to revolt the British from the country. What is that? The non-corporation movement. You can mark it. It is very important to state that the non-corporation movement of 1920. The peasant movement was started as the main center where in UP. After that, it moved to Bengal, Gujarat, Rajasthan, Orissa, Malabar, Assam, and other provinces. In UP, the movement was moved into a violent condition where police fired on killing number of peasants, demonstration on the spot. मतलब वायलेशन हुआ था पीजेंट के साथ. मतलब पीजेंट जो मतलब वर्किंग क्लास है उनका जो वायलेशन हुआ था, मतलब जो मूवमेंट था वो पीसफुली होना चाहिए था, लेकिन यूपी में बहुत वायलेशन की रेट में वो हुआ था, इसलिए पुलिस को एक्शन लेना पड़ा. During this period, Congress gave a call up for no tax movement in UP, and gradually no tax campaign had also been started in Bengal and Bihar. But the need for one central organization was gradually felt by the socialists and communists. The urge to lead All India Kisan Sabha in 1936 under Swami Sahajananda Saraswati, N.A. Ranjay, and Narendra Dev, Indalur Yagnik, and Bankim Mukherjee. These were the prominent leaders of All India Kisan Sabha. So in the first conference of Kisan Sabha in Lucknow in 1936, what were the objective of the Kisan Sabha? To free the peasants from all sorts of economic exploitation, abolition of zamindari system, distribution of land to the landless peasants, cancellation of all debts, afford irrigational facilities to the peasant for improvement agriculture. So ये सब objective बहुत important है आपके एग्जाम के लिए. ये सब आप थोड़ा पढ़ लीजिएगा और बहुत ईजी है कि उन लोगों का क्या डिमांड था, क्या किसान सभा मूवमेंट का मेन ऑब्जेक्टिव क्या था वो मूवमेंट करने के लिए. The Congress leadership also need the support of peasantry in its struggle against the British Raj. The leaders also knew the grievances of the peasants, but the right-wing leaders of Congress did not like Kisan Sabha for its demand like abolition of zamindari system. Whenever the peasants revolted against the landlords, the Congress leadership tried to restrain them. But the Kisan Sabha leadership had full faith on National Congress and its role for the liberation of the country. मतलब कांग्रेस को भी कांग्रेस लीडरशिप नीडेड द सपोर्ट ऑफ द peasant of the working class in its struggle against British Raj. मतलब वर्किंग क्लास का भी तो सपोर्ट रहना चाहिए ना ब्रिटिश को आउटरश करने के लिए इंडिया के बाहर. बोथ राइट विंग लीडर्स ऑफ कांग्रेस डिड नॉट लाइक किसान सभा फॉर इस डिमांड ऑफ एबलिशन ऑफ जमीनी सिस्टम. तो राइट विंग जो लीडर्स थे कांग्रेस के वो इतना पसंद नहीं करते थे किस डिमांड को, किसान सभा के एबलिशन ऑफ जमींदारी सिस्टम. Kisan Sabha leadership had full faith on National Congress, and they know that what National Congress has contributed to the country. They cannot outreach, or they cannot outrush that contribute. They cannot forget it. They have contributed in the National Congress in the outrush, and they keep working on them to throw out the British from the country. So National Congress also needed the help of the Kisan Sabha. Means Kisan Sabha working class. And moving to the last topic, what is the growth of communalism? The Government of India Act 1935 provided for provincial autonomy with some restriction. The election result showed in general constituencies the Congress almost swept the poll, the Muslim League claiming. So here in the growth of communalism, the most important part is that Muslim demand for a separate country, demand for a separate land. They don't want to stay with Indians, and as what are the allegations of Muslims over Indians, that they are not giving them the right, they are not giving them the place to practice their worship, to practice their religion. That was the demands of the Muslim, and here only the demand of separate states, that is Pakistan, has the creation of the issue of Pakistan has been started. मुस्लिम नीड अ स्पोक्स पर्सन फॉर द मुस्लिम कम्युनिटी. मुस्लिम को लगता था कि हम लोग को रिप्रेजेंट करने के लिए एक आदमी चाहिए, एक लोग चाहिए. एंड दे ऑलवेज हैव बीन एलिगेटेड दैट हिंदू राज हैव बीन always over the Muslim peoples, but the situation was not that. The actual reason was they want a separate country, a separate land for themselves. Just to gain support, Muslim League now raised the cry of Islam in danger and threat of impending the Hindu Raj. So they are crying that Islam is in danger. So we need a representative or ourselves to protect our community. Ultimately, M.N. Jinnah and other Muslim League leaders declared that the real aim ऑफ द कांग्रेस वॉज नॉट इंडिपेंडेंस. उन लोगों ने क्या एलिगेशन दिया कि कांग्रेस का जो एम है वो इंडिपेंडेंस नहीं है, वो क्या है, हिंदू राज एस्टेब्लिश करना, मतलब हिंदू डेमोक्रेसी, हिंदू डोमिनेंट कंट्री एस्टेब्लिश करना जहाँ पर हिंदू मुस्लिम एक साथ नहीं रह सकता. तो वो तो मुस्लिम लोगों को क्या लगता था कि यही इशू है जिसकी वजह से हिंदू मुस्लिम डिवीजन हुआ. द मुस्लिम people keep on demanding for a separate homeland so that they could live and practice their freedom. Inevitably, the demand for Pakistan was raised by the politics of fear and hatred created by the Muslim leaders after 1937. So, जैसा मैंने बताया कि उन लोगों को एक अलग स्टेट चाहिए, उन लोगों को एक अलग लैंड चाहिए, जिसलिए पाकिस्तान उनको चाहिए. मतलब पाकिस्तान तो ऐसा नहीं कि पहले से नाम था, मतलब उनको एक अलग लैंड चाहिए, तो जिसका नामकरण बाद में क्या पड़ा, पाकिस्तान. And Jinnah came forward with his two-nation theory, which is very famous on the Lahore session on 23 March 1940. He said that the Hindu and Muslim considered of the two nation and economically, politically, socially, culturally and historically they were the different people. तो उनको two nation चाहिए, मतलब एक हिंदू का चाहिए और एक मुस्लिम का. What are his demands? That Muslims should have a separate sovereign state for themselves. Muslim League then passed the famous Lahore resolution demanding an independent state for the Muslims, because the Hindus and Muslims were two nations. अब वो दो nation हो गया, Hindu और Muslim. On the other side, Hindu communalists also appealed to the religion like their Muslim counterpart. Madan Mohan Malavaiya place was taken by leaders like Videh Savarkar of Hindu Mahasabha and M.S. Golwakar of the Rashtriya Swayam Sevak Sangha. गोलवाकर्स बुक वी, गोलवाकर्स का बुक क्या था, वी, मतलब ये सब मेंबर्स था, ये सब लीडर था. कहाँ का, हिंदू कम्युनिस्ट का ये सब लीडर था काउंटर पार्ट करने के लिए. तो गोलवाकर्स का जो किताब था वी, ये एक मैनिफेस्टो हुआ हिंदू कम्युनलिज्म का. मतलब मैनिफेस्टो मतलब ये एक ऑब्जेक्टिव हो गया हिंदू कम्युनलिज्म का. दे डिक्लेयर द हिंदूज वर द ओनली नेशन लिविंग इन इंडिया एंड द मुस्लिम शुड either leave the country or leave as a second class citizen. मतलब उनको इंपॉर्टेंस कम ही मिलने वाला है, उनको प्रायोरिटी कम ही मिलने वाला है, यही बताया गया. The Congress and the Congressmen that condemned the National Congress and the Congressmen for supporting our most inveterate enemies. वहाँ पर जो गवर्नमेंट एक्ट ऑफ 1935 था, वहाँ पर एक बात भी कहा गया था कि प्रोविंशियल ऑटोनमी का क्या मतलब है, मतलब उन लोगों को खुद का वो लोग स्पीच दे पाए, मतलब खुद का autonomy का मतलब क्या है कि मुस्लिम्स खुद इंडिपेंडेंट डिसीजन ले पाए अबाउट द फेडरेशन. So, in this way, the political and social atmosphere became vicious, and 1914 became the most crucial and decisive phase of both Hindu and Muslim communism. 1940 बहुत crucial and decisive phase बन गया हिंदू एंड मुस्लिम कम्युनिज्म के. सो तो यहाँ पर ही ख़त्म होता है आपका पार्ट 1.1. और व्हाट इज़ कम्युनिज्म, मतलब वही कि स्टेट ओनरशिप, मतलब उनको एक अलग स्टेट चाहिए मुस्लिम लोगों को, जहाँ पर the property of each individual would get according to their ability and needs. So we'll complete the question answer part, the exercise part, the short and the broad questions in the next class soon, where we'll cover all of this. And you please, if you can, so try to solve the question as I've taught you to. So try to solve out the question as much as you can, and we'll discuss in the next class. So that's all for today. Thank you. And the last topic we have covered, the growth of communalism. So do subscribe to my channel for further updates, and we'll see you in the next class. So till then, keep learning and keep exploring. Thank you. Bye.